Hi everybody, we're back in Indepence, Missouri. After winter quarters, my intentions were to go over to the Iowa side and record some of the sites in Canesville, but my two teenage daughters weren't feeling so well, so we had to cut the trip short. So I'll have to go back there, and I may go as soon as next week. That's what I would like to do. So in the meantime, we'll come back to Mound Grove Cemetery. There's two sites here. One has to do with victims of the cholera, members of Zion's camp. And then this is the cemetery where the prophet presidents of the RLDS Church, now Community of Christ, are buried, including Joseph Smith III. And his gravesite is pretty impressive. You'll notice on the left side here, you have the emblem of the RLDS Church. I don't know if they still own the cemetery, but it seems like they did at one time. I don't know anything about the history of the cemetery, but I think that's an interesting little detail. I don't know if you were watching my channel back when we went to the Rush Creek site, which is in Liberty in Clay County. If you haven't, you may want to go watch that after this. That's where the cholera victims were originally buried, and that's where most of them are still buried. But in 1958, the farmer that owned that land had cattle, and the cattle walk along certain paths. They take like the same route when they go places, like different places within the pasture, I guess. And over time, as that path started to deepen, the cows kicked up some bones, and the farmer contacted law enforcement, and they exhumed 3 of the bodies and then identified them as members of Zion's camp. Let's go ahead and read this headstone here. Zion's camp. In 1834, Joseph Smith Jr. led a group of over 200 from Ohio to Clay County, Missouri, to redress losses suffered by the Latter-day Saints during the expulsion from Jackson County. About 68 people at the camp were stricken with cholera. 15 died and were buried beside Rush Creek, southeast of Liberty. Oh, I haven't checked the map, but I thought that it's still in Liberty. Well, maybe that was Liberty at the time that they were buried, but I think it's within city limits now. In Clay County, the remains of three of these victims were discovered in 1958 and reburied here in 1976. Missouri Mormon Frontier Foundation, 1997. Yeah, so the first time I came here, I had no idea why only 3 of them were moved to this location, or why anybody would have moved them at all. But that's the reason why, because at first it was a mystery, and they didn't know if that was like the scene of a murder or what was going on. Okay, in memory of those who died here, or sorry, in remembrance of those who died. And you can pause and read all the names. At the bottom it says monument by Johnson and Sons. I don't recognize any of these names per se. Oh wait, no, that's a lie. You have Algernon S. Gilbert. I think that this is the same Gilbert that you see in downtown Indepence at the Gilbert and Whitney Company store. Dang, I'll have to double check that. I think that's him. Okay, so anyway, one of the bodies that was moved here was female, and from what I was reading in Sacred Places, Missouri, it was saying that it was probably Betsy Parish right here, but that they don't know who the other two were. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into Algernon S. Gilbert. I think that's the Gilbert of Gilbert and Whitney Company. I feel like I'm learning something new every time I go to one of these places, even if it's one that I've already been to before. Okay, now we're gonna head up to the top of the hill, and that's where you have various prophet presidents of the RLDS church buried. I don't know if there's anybody else of interest buried here. I'm sure it would have been mentioned in all the different places that I look. But it's not just the RLDS or Community of Christ. You also have one of the break-offs from the RLDS, the Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And their first prophet president since the split or the schism, he's buried here too. I'll show you in just a second. Wow, these fall colors are really vibrant over here. I was busy all day. Otherwise, I would have recorded this earlier in the day when there was more sunlight. So I don't know how this is going to look by the time that you're watching it. And as you can see, the most prominent thing around here in this area is the sarcophagus of Joseph Smith III. Just nice and big on both sides. It says Joseph Smith, and then it has like a carving of like a wreath on each side, or maybe it's olive branches, because I see that there's some kind of fruit or something that's growing off of the branches. The first time I came up here, I made a short video, like an up and down video on my phone, with the intention of posting it on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And I didn't think about the fact that not everybody knows where Joseph Smith, like the prophet Joseph Smith, the father of Joseph Smith III, not everybody knows that he's buried in Nauvoo. And so a lot of people, especially on TikTok, because there's a lot of the youth and young adults who are on TikTok, they were mistaking this for where Joseph Smith was buried. Even though I did go around the sarcophagus, and it says right here, born at Kirtland, Ohio, November 6th, 1832. So 2 years after the church was established. But I guess, I don't know, most of those people probably didn't watch the whole video, even though it was only like less than a minute. Died at Indepence, Missouri, December 10th, 1914. So that's really interesting to think that he was born in Kirtland. You'll remember that the RLDS believed that he should become the next prophet and president of their church. So they did not follow Brigham Young, but he was still pretty young by the time that, you know, his father was martyred and it was time for somebody else to lead the church. They waited until he was older. I'm not exactly sure what age, but by the time he was old enough to lead the church, Brigham Young points out that he had no conception of what the church really was at the time that his father was alive. This says, President of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, April 6, 1860 to December 10th, 1914. So you have all this time go by, And of course he's not familiar with the temple endowment and the temple rituals and stuff like that. So because their church ended up abandoning those things, and Brigham Young pointed that out, how he was young, he didn't really, it didn't have an impact on him. Okay, so we have him. I'm gonna do a quick search. I should have pulled this up beforehand. List of prophet presidents of Community of Christ. I'll have to do it again. List of prophet presidents of Community of Christ. So this one, Israel Alexander Smith. So if Joseph Smith was the first one, this would be from our point of view. For them, of course, Joseph Smith was the first, and Joseph Smith III was the second. But from our point of view, if he was the first prophet president of Community of Christ, Israel Alexander Smith, it says here, he would have been the third. Let's see, president of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from April 7th, 1946 to June 14th, 1948. Okay, and then let's see, I can't remember. There are some others. Maybe it's over on this side. Here's a big one over here. Frederick Madison Smith, president of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from May 5th, 1915 to March 20th, 1946. So he was the second. So first, second, and then over on the other side, the third. After Frederick, or after, so Joseph Smith III, Frederick M. Smith, Israel A. Smith, and then after that, W. Wallace Smith. Let's take a quick look around. You would think that he would be over here. Here's two Smiths, but not the ones that we're looking for. Oh, there's another big one over there that says Smith. Let's take a look at that. Albert A. No, he was not one. Okay, well, I'm not sure if there's any other of the prophet presidents that are buried here. I may have to come and explore some other time. That one says Hall. But, like I was saying earlier, you have Frederick Niels Larsen, and he's the first prophet president after they split from Community of Christ / RLDS. The first prophet president of Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I've already forgotten the story, but he is somehow related to Joseph Smith. Frederick Niels Larsen, Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Pull this up. Oh, it says he is the great-grandson of Joseph Smith III. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, when he passed away, it was like sudden and very unexpected, but I guess he had designated who should become the next prophet president of the church, and it was not a descendant of Joseph Smith. It's Terry W. Patience, and that's just how it went. But with their church, up until that point, I guess it had always been a descendant of Joseph Smith from their point of view. Of course, Community of Christ, they ended up going with people from other bloodlines. They moved away from it having to be a descendant of Joseph Smith. Yeah, I'm wondering if any of the other ones are here. If you know, please let me know in the comments. But this is a pretty incredible sarcophagus. When you go to Nauvoo, I don't know if you've been there before, but in Nauvoo there's kind of like a joint monument or like big headstone type thing where Joseph Smith is in the middle. If I remember right, to the right is his wife Emma, and then to the left Hiram. And then there's like a path, and if you follow the path it goes down to where Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack Smith are buried, and then others of the Smith family. I've always wondered, you know, you have this right here that kind of like opens up, it lets it vent. Why is that? Is it like a pressure thing so that as the air inside heats up or cools, it doesn't crack the sarcophagus? That's going to be my best guess. If you know, put it in the comments below. Does this one have one? Oh, that's not anything. That's just like a dark blemish on it. Yeah, it has like a, that's got to be what it is. Kind of like a pressure release thing. And then while we're here, I guess there's one more, well, there's two more things. I don't know if you saw this while I was walking around, but you have Adar, wife of Joseph Smith. So she's buried right here next to him. And then if we go this way, let's see, how far do I gotta go? I can't remember. I just know it's in this direction. Over here somewhere, they have a bunch of headstones that are basically just like small sculptures of lambs. I think that might be them right there. And ever since I've seen them, I've wondered if that's some kind of RLDS thing, because remember on the emblem they have the lion, the child in the middle, and then to the right is a lamb. And I'm just curious if that's what they were doing with these over here. Or I don't know, maybe that was just the kind of like a trend at the time. Yeah, it's over here. That one is broken, the head came off, so let's go over here. Here's one of them. I'm trying to see if there's anything that would give us a clue on the front, but not really. So you got that. It looks like the ear is broken off. But there's a bunch of them in this section of the graveyard. And these are all smaller headstones. I wonder if like this is like this area is for children or something. Yeah, that one says June 15th to June 16th, son of Willard and Charlotte. That one Well, it has a teddy bear, and it just has 1936, 1935 to 36. Okay, I think that probably solves the mystery. It seems like these are like headstones for children, and so I guess maybe around that time, you know, maybe this was just kind of like a trend slash tradition at that time. Okay, well, that's gonna be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.